This podcast is a work of historical interpretation. While we strive for accuracy, some aspects of history are open to interpretation and debate. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to Time Tellers, where the walls don't just have ears, they have history. Today, we're walking through the life of America's most argued over renovation project, the White House. From the first bricks laid by James Hoban in the 1790s through the 1814 burning and the significant rebuild, to Theodore Roosevelt's 1902 modernization and the Truman gut job, then Jackie Kennedy's museum-quality restoration, 21st century security upgrades, and now the most controversial addition in generations, President Trump's new ballroom and the demolition of the East Wing.
If a house could talk, this one would have its own renovation podcast, and it would be spicy.
Spicy and expensive.
Like you.
Along the way, we'll break down...
Oh, wait, minus the expensive part.
Along the way, we'll break down who said yes or no, how the bills were paid, which projects were transparent, which were hush-hush, and how each change reflected what the presidency needed and wanted at the time.
You know, what they needed.
We should probably introduce ourselves because it's not actually written in. I'm Renee, and this is Dan. In case y'all didn't know. Let's start with a surprising fact. The White House was designed to adapt and change. George Washington selected the site and supervised the competition, but never actually resided there. The Irish-born architect James Hoban won the competition to design it in 1792. John Adams moved in during 1800 to a drafty, unfinished house that would be continually altered as presidents confronted reality. This resilience, this ability to adapt, is a testament to the enduring spirit of the White House.
Day one issues. Honey, where do we put the cabinet? Where do we put the cows?
Sorry, it's funny.
That's not big enough for you.
And this podcast is over now.
This was a working home and office before the era of sprawling staff.
And the tension, home versus headquarters, drives the renovation story. The foundational phases are Hoban's original build, which took place from 1792 to 1800. Then the 1814 fire and rebuild, which was 1815 to 1817, and then 19th century additions like the north and south porticos, which give the house its iconic profile. These porticos weren't in Hoban's original plan. Benjamin Henry Latrobe drew schemes in the 1810s, and Hoban ultimately built the south portico in 1824 under James Monroe and the north portico around 1829 to 1830 under President Andrew Jackson.
So the famous front sweep picture, those came in waves.
Exactly. The first big payment question pops up early. After the 1814 burning by British forces during the War of 1812, Congress and the executive branch hired Hoban to rebuild.
Why didn't they just make the British pay for it?
Good question. He smartly reused some exterior stonework and changed interior partitions to speed construction, swapping in timber where heavy brick had originally been used, to get Monroe back inside by 1817. This was a significant challenge, but Hoban's innovative approach saved time and resources, albeit with some structural issues that would need to be addressed later. Because when you cut corners, that can happen. Through the mid to late 1800s, presidents kept layering changes. Taste shifted from neoclassic restraint to Victorian exuberance. Think heavy drapes, glass, color, and plant mania. James Buchanan added a greenhouse in 1857. The complex grew through the Civil War era and after. These conservatories supplied cut flowers and even fruit to the residents.
A greenhouse city on the West Terrace. It's hard to imagine next to the modern West Wing.
Which is the point. By 1901, the residence was overloaded, physically and symbolically. It was a home, a factory estate entertainment, and an office building jammed with staff. The glass houses looked dated and cramped, and the grounds were overgrown. Critics and connoisseurs were already arguing about historical character versus practical function. That debate only intensified in the 20th century, which, of course, is the 1900s. Okay.
Was that supposed to be funny?
I'm funny. Sometimes. President Theodore Roosevelt brought the first modern mega renovation. In 1902, he hired Charles McKim of McKim, Mead, and White to rationalize the building, separate the family's living quarters from the expanding executive operation, refit the state floor for larger, more formal entertaining, and remove the old conservatories on the west side. Out go the greenhouse, in comes a temporary office structure that becomes the West Wing. Congress appropriates over $500,000 for the project.
Temporary in Washington often means for the next century.
Also, McKim stripped away the Victorian aesthetics that earlier presidents loved, sweeping back towards a colonial/classical look that Roosevelt thought more fitting. Preservationists and garden lovers howled about the loss of the greenhouses, but the change reflected a tectonic shift. The presidency was becoming a 20th century institution with staff, communications, and a public stage to manage.
Was the thought of tectonics even existing at this point in time?
I do believe it was. I will check, but I think it was.
Because that was after they've determined the Earth wasn't the center of the universe. I know that was before the Pangea and everything. Gondwana land.
Really? This is 1902?
Well,
my internet's slow.
Well, that's because it looks like it's loading pictures.
Yeah, I don't know why. As far back as the 16th and 17th centuries, thinkers noticed the shape of the continent seemed to fit together.
Okay.
In the mid-1800s, fossil evidence and rock type similarities across continents reinforced the possibility of large-scale continental movement.
Okay, so like late 1800s.
Yeah.
So, close to.
Yeah, and specifically the continental drift theory that came out in 1912.
Oh, I was right.
But, they were already talking about it. That's just when the more concrete...
That's because that's when they were able to talk about it. They're like, remember what happened to, Galileo?
Right. I mean, in 1858, Antonio Snider Pellegrini proposed that similar fossil plants found in coal deposits in Europe and North America might be explained if the two continents were once connected.
Yeah, well.
So, I mean...
1912, I win.
Oh, okay. It was definitely in the scientific minds of the time.
But is that back when they believed in science?
Well, this was before this Scopes trial.
Oh.
I'm wearing my Inherit the Wind shirt. Because today was pajama day at school, so that's why I'm wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt.
Oh, I thought you wore the skulls to bed.
It's comfy. Okay, so I think it's your line.
And the famous Oval Office?
The famous Oval Office? That's the next chapter.
But why is it so famous? Because it's an oval?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
In 1909, William Howard Taft expanded the West Wing and created the first Oval Office as the president's working room. The oval shape, inspired by the resident's blue room and formal levees going back to Washington, places the president at the hub, closer to staff and operations. It's a design that's not just iconic, but also practical, ensuring the president's efficiency in managing the nation's affairs. Herbert Hoover's first year brings a Christmas Eve 1929 fire that damages the West Wing. He repairs and makes improvements, including early air conditioning. Then Franklin Roosevelt reshaped the West Wing again in 1933 and 34, pushing eastward and relocating the Oval Office for privacy and accessibility, which seems like an oxymoron. But I think he meant so only certain people could access it. As the government grows, so does the complexity. The White House, like the nation it represents, is expanding in both size and influence.
And the residence gets taller, too.
Right.
Sorry, slightly annoyed.
About what?
Stuff.
Oh, okay. Calvin Coolidge 1927 renovation adds a whole third floor, including the solarium over the south portico. This not only provided more living space, but also improved the roof structure, enhancing the safety and comfort of the first family. It's more living space and better roof structure. Another practical modernization that changes how the first family inhabited the house.
Then World War II hits.
In 1942, the White House added the East Wing. On the surface, it provides public entry and office space, particularly for the First Lady's staff. Below ground, it conceals and protects the President's Emergency Operations Center, the PEOC. Built for
made famous in Olympus Has Fallen.
Yes, I love that movie.
It's free right now, too.
Really? I might have to watch it again. It was on Netflix for a while, but it hasn't been.
Yeah, it's free on Vizio, at least.
The PEOC was built for wartime continuity and later used during other crises. The East Wing's wartime origins matter today because they tied the building's form to national security needs, reflecting the changing role of the presidency and the White House during times of crisis like World War II.
Yeah, except the White House was never a target.
It was. It's just...
It was a target nobody could get to.
In theory, yeah. Of course, we also thought they couldn't get to Pearl Harbor, so they did.
Alaska. Who thought they couldn't get to either of those?
I meant like the general public, not necessarily the people in government or like military.
So mainland USA, no.
Yeah.
No.
They got to Alaska.
I said mainland.
No, I know, but like if they could get to the Aleutian Islands off of Alaska, I think I said that correctly. And after they hit Pearl Harbor, we definitely were worried about them getting to mainland. But I was speaking primarily about the normal, everyday person in America. Like, by the late 1940s, the residence was in trouble. Years of ad hoc alterations left it structurally unsound. In 1948, a leg of Margaret Truman's piano literally breaks through the floor. One of the many warning signs. Engineers conclude the interior is failing.
Or she just sucked and the piano gave up.
I don't think so. But...
Or she was using the piano for non-piano purposes.
No, that's something I'm going to think about now, thanks.
Yeah, she was dancing on it.
Either way, it should not have fallen through the roof.
Or she was sitting on it and Harry was playing it.
It's all Truman's fault.
Yeah. You could say the house was still standing only out of habit, as one engineer put it.
Exactly. President Harry Truman oversees a radical solution. Evacuate, gut the residence down to its stone walls, and rebuild the interior as a modern steel and concrete structure. From 1948 to 1952, the executive residence became a shell with a brand new skeleton. 660 tons of steel framing, new floors, new mechanicals, cost about $5.7 million in public funds. It is, in effect, the 20th century building in an 18th century suit.
So the part we see, the limestone exterior, remains. Inside, it's fundamentally new.
And not without controversy. In 1948, Truman also added the now beloved Truman balcony to the south portico. Critics, including members of the Commission of Fine Arts, said it spoiled the classical lines. Truman argued it would shade the portico, eliminate ugly awnings, and balance the facade. He paid for the balcony from the White House household account rather than a separate appropriation. And after it was built, many critics conceded it looked good. It's a classic case of scandalous change becoming part of the canon.
What canon?
Canon of the White House.
Are you threatening the White House with a cannon?
Oh. The Truman rebuild stabilized the structure but left interiors feeling generic. First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy arrived in 1961 with a different mission: to treat the state floor like a museum and furnish it with authentic American and period pieces. She recruits advisors like Henry Francis Dupuy, brings in designers such as Stéphane Boudin, and raises private funds for acquisitions. Congress, recognizing the need for stewardship, passed Public Law 87-286 in 1961, declaring the White House state and ground floors to have a museum character and making historically significant furnishings inalienable property of the White House. Then, in 1964, President Lyndon Johnson issued Executive Order 11145, establishing the Curator and Committee for the Preservation of the White House, formalizing expert oversight of any changes to the staterooms. Again, this is an executive order, but executive orders cover the executive office and branch or government, so that makes sense.
When they fit your current narrative. Translation, you can still redecorate, but you can't just yard sale the Lincoln bed to buy a sectional.
And it changes how projects...
But you can sell bricks from the East Wing.
Oh my God, is that happening?
I heard, but I didn't research it to see if it was real.
So rumor is. And it changed how projects were funded. The White House Historical Association, founded in 1961, becomes the nonprofit vehicle for private donations and acquisitions. Public appropriations continue to cover building systems and operations. It's a dual-track approach. Private money for museum-quality interiors and education, the museum part aspect, and federal money for the physical plant and security. Like the physical upkeep of the building, because we can't have it falling down on top of the heads of the first family and staff. That's bad.
I mean...
That's bad.
At that point in time, yes, it would have been bad.
That's always bad. After Kennedy, most changes are incremental. Routine refittings of the west and east wings, ongoing preservations of staterooms, and lifestyle amenities that spark predictable chatter. For example, Nixon's 1969 bowling lane, separate from staff lanes. Carter-era solar hot water panels, later removed. And much later, Obama-era photovoltaic panels returning to the residence roof in 2014. And I think that's the solar panels, right? Why do I have such a weird scientific name for it?
Because they're a different kind of solar panel.
Okay. The pattern is familiar. Symbolic gesture.
It collects a different type of light than the normal.
Oh, okay. But it's still like the same purpose, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. This pattern is familiar. Symbolic gestures blended with quiet infrastructure work. Something quiet.
It's just pretty much how, different part of the spectrum that it...
Okay. More, well, and plus modern. To be more modern.
Yes,
yeah, because
that's
Carter was 70s.
Before was, now they can use infrared and...
Right. That
stuff.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
And through all of it, the rule of the 1960s still holds. Museum-quality things are protected. Were protected. And you go through the Preservation Committee.
That plus your friendly neighborhood acronyms. NPS, the National Park Service, stewards the grounds and partners with the executive residence. The Secret Service drives security needs. GSA and other federal entities touch facilities. And advisory bodies like the Commission of Fine Arts and National Capital Planning Commission review major projects in the Capitol. It's a multi-agency by design.
You mean,
at least it was.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mean one person?
It's not set up that way.
Does that matter?
In our current environment, it does not seem to matter. Yes.
I was going to say, it's you. So.
I know. In the 2000s and 2010s, renovation increasingly means fiber networks, SCIFs, and hardening the perimeter. Changes you can't often see. The Situation Room, specifically, let's talk about that for a second. First formalized under JFK, has undergone multiple tech overhauls because, technology evolves. Yeah. The most recent was a one-year, roughly $50 million renovation completed in 2023 that modernized secure communications, rooms, and workflows. It's the most secure square footage in the building, and it must be upgraded on a cycle that keeps up with threats. Totally makes sense. The fence. Following repeated jump attempts, the Secret Service and NPS, National Park Service, led a $64 million project to replace the 6.5-foot fence with a 13-foot anti-climb barrier, beginning in 2019. That's a renovation of the boundary, less glamorous than a ballroom, more consequential for security.
The change in perimeter also tells you how the public realm shifts. Tourists grumble about views. Security people pointed to incident data that push-pull is baked into every White House decision.
Meanwhile...
Of course something's baked. It's baked.
Meanwhile, how do I say that word? Cyclical? No.
Cyclical?
Thank you. Meanwhile, cyclical maintenance goes on. West Wing refreshes, carpet and paint, IT upgrades. In 2017, a 2-week West Wing renovation addresses structural repairs, HVAC, and network systems, reported at around a few $1 million. These are routine federal facilities projects baked into budgets and planned ahead of time.
And sometimes First Lady initiatives like Melania Trump's tennis pavilion and a 2020 Rose Garden renovation, headline for design choices and donor optics, but they also plug into the broader matrix of NPS, the Preservation Committee, and private funding via the Historical Association.
In October 2025, this month, although by the time this comes out, it won't be this month, but,
If this episode ever comes out.
Hey.
It might not be this year.
But okay. The White House began demolishing the East Wing to make way for a massive, glass-walled ballroom project championed by President Donald Trump.
Began demolishing? They did demolish.
Yes, I know.
I'm just going by what you said.
The proposal, variously cited at $250 to $300 million, calls for a roughly 90,000 square foot facility connected to the residence. The administration has said the project is privately funded through donations from individuals, corporations, and the president's associates.
The East Wing isn't just any annex. It's a wartime structure with the PEOC bunker below, and decades of First Lady's operations above. Preservationists, architects, and process watchers started waving red flags the moment demolition fencing went up.
Critics, including the National Trust for Historic Preservation and professional groups, argue that large federal projects in Washington typically require review by the National Capital Planning Commission and the Commission of Fine Arts. Public processes rooted in federal policy and decades of precedent. Reporting noted that demolition was underway even as those public steps had not yet been completed, sparking questions about legal mechanisms to halt or review the teardown. The administration has maintained that private funding and distinctions between demolition and construction changed the approval landscape. That's called lawyer speak. Others say that it is a break from norms and potentially form new policy going forward.
Meanwhile, the donor list, not to be confused with the Epstein list, this list we actually kind of have. Large brand name companies in tech and defense reportedly included, added another layer is corporate philanthropy remaking the People's House or just underwriting an executive preference. That's not a new question. Jackie Kennedy's restoration relied on donors too, but the scale, the demolition of a whole wing, and the timeline make this different.
Yes, as far as I recall, she didn't demo anything.
Yeah.
The administration frames the project as an overdue modernization for state hospitality. Tents on the South Lawn are inelegant. The East Room is too small. A 900 to 1,000 guest ballroom would meet contemporary diplomatic needs, but it was good enough for Princess Diana in 1985 to dance with John Travolta in.
And, everybody else.
Yeah. Opponents counter that the White House already has large entertaining spaces and that megastructures alter the historic composition of the grounds, including the Rose Garden axis long associated with JFK and designer Rachel Bunny Mellon, which is also now gone.
Thanks, Trump.
Some stories describe patio-style treatments extending across parts of the garden, or all of it. Well, maybe it's parts, but it's most of it. A symbolic flashpoint since the garden itself was just redesigned in 2020.
Thank you, Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Process and symbolism again. Even in earlier times, presidents pushed things through.
Mm-hmm.
Theodore Roosevelt bulldozed greenhouses. Truman built the balcony amid jeers, but those actions also flowed through appropriations and commissions in ways that were recognizable and reversible. This one feels bigger.
And more permanent. Bigger in size and precedent. Multiple outlets reported that the East Wing demolition is proceeding ahead of formal NCPC approvals. Former commission officials told reporters that while review is traditionally required, there may be no precise administrative mechanism to stop demolition once underway. Yeah, it's a little too late at that point.
Huh?
That procedural ambiguity, paired with a pledge of private funding, made this the most controversial physical change since the Truman Reconstruction, which did go through appropriations.
Yeah,
With the exception of that balcony, which was a little more like a private funding. Let's step back and decode approvals and fundings across the eras. Early Republic to 19th century. Congress authorizes spending to build or rebuild after 1814, furnish and maintain the president's house. Purchases sometimes include authority to dispose of out-of-date items, reflecting a utilitarian view of federal property. Theodore Roosevelt and Taft, 1902 to 1909. Congress appropriates funds to modernize and separate functions. The business of the White House and where the family lived. That's what that means. McKim's 1902 overhaul and Taft's 1909 expansion with the first Oval Office are classic public works inside the executive compound. Approvals involve the president, architects, and already by then, advisory art bodies. Calvin Coolidge, 1927, third floor expansion and solarium. Again, federal works improving the residents' envelope and living capacity. Not flashy to the public, vital for function. Truman, 1948 to 1952. The large-scale structural rebuild funded with public money. Steel frame, new systems, and the famous balcony paid from household funds. This is the last time the White House core changed on any magnitude. Until now, with approval and oversight.
Approval and oversight? What's that?
Kennedy and after, 1961 plus. A new architecture of governance, Public Law 87-86, protects museum characters, state and ground floors. The 1964 executive order establishes the Curator and Preservation Committee. The White House Historical Association serves as the conduit for private gifts and acquisitions, and those private gifts might be money, but they might also be paintings or sculptures, while public appropriations support the building and grounds. From this point, First Lady projects can be privately funded and still professionally reviewed and okayed. Security and infrastructures, 2000 to 2020s. Situation room overhauls for, national security. Understandable. New fencing, again, security. Cyber security and HVAC work. All needs upgraded eventually. Time keeps going. Paid through federal appropriations and managed with multiple agencies, the EEOP, the USSS, NPS, and GSA, and commissions when required, and there's also a bidding process. These aren't decorative, they're mission critical. Then we have the Trump Ballroom 2025. Private pledges and donors underwrite a large new construction that requires demolition of the East Wing. Critics say it bypassed traditional review and public comment.
That's not critics, that's actually what happened.
That's like everyday people saying this as well. The White House argues that review regime doesn't bar demolition and that approvals will follow for construction. So it's okay to tear it down. That no approval needed for that, to tear down an entire part of the building that's been there since, what was that, 1942?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The scale of private
But
money...
you know he's just doing it because the actual residence is too small, so that's going to actually be the residence, and he's going to gut the inside of what the White House is and turn that into the ballroom.
Well, that's a theory I haven't heard yet, but okay.
That's what he's going to do because that's why it's bigger than the residence, because the residence isn't big enough for him.
The scale of private money changes optics and governance questions.
So in short, earlier errors equal public money and visible processes. Mid-century onward equals a split model where private money decorates, public money secures and maintains. Today's ballroom equals private checkbook funding, a structural transformation whose process alarms the world.
Yes. Contemporary reactions make the story come alive.
Renovations.
No.
Oh!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you did another one of those where you...
No, I read that right.
This time.
So, the porticos that were built during the 1820s and 1830s. People saw these as dignifying the house. Grand stairs and classical language befitting a young republic. An aesthetic addition approved without our modern preservation apparatus. Teddy Roosevelt's 1902 overhaul. Newspapers lament the loss of the greenhouses and the stripping of Victorian interiors. Supporters praise the rational plan and space for a modern presidency. Congress, by funding it, validates the change. Truman balcony, 1948, right? Fine arts commissioners object. Cartoonists mock, because that's what cartoonists do. Or today's version of that would be the late night shows. Truman...
Before they get forced off the air by government interference.
Truman barrels ahead and pays for it from household funds, which is a little shady, but apparently we looked the other way once we decided after construction, many critics conceded that it improved the facade. By we, I mean like the American people that were alive then, not me. Truman's reconstruction beyond the balcony. Some mourn the old interior. Most accept necessity after structural failures make the building unsafe. You have to keep it to safety standards. I realized during the 1930s and 40s, we were a little preoccupied, with the Great Depression and World War II.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. By the end, the residence is a modern frame with historical finishes layered back in. Kind of a nice little compromise that most people, I think, once they got over the it's changing aspect because people hate change, they were okay with. Kennedy Restoration, 1961 to 63. TV special turns the country into connoisseurs overnight because Jacqueline Kennedy was brilliant and invited the TV cameras in to show everyone, it was in black and white, but to show everyone what she did. And people were so mesmerized by Jackie Kennedy and the whole Camelot thing, and I do believe Jack Kennedy makes an appearance, that it's good PR. She wins them over with good PR, Congress and an executive order lock in museum stewardship. Private donors become heroes of heritage during this era. Security fence. Tourists complain about photos because they can no longer get their good photos, and you do go to Washington, D.C., and one of the places you want to see as a tourist is the White House. I get it.
Not anymore.
Neighbors and officials focus on intrusions and evolving threats. The new 13-foot fence is a visible compromise. Safety versus openness. Because remember, back in the 1800s, you could just walk into the White House.
Yeah.
Especially pre-Civil War. You could just walk in. Anybody.
Fence isn't even needed.
Situation Room, 2023. Inside baseball to most Americans, but national security pros celebrate the upgrade. Media tours showcase wood paneling and tech, a blend of tradition and capability. And then we have the Trump Ballroom, 2025. Architects, preservation groups, a lot of normal people on the street, and formal officials question the process and impact.
2/3 of all Americans, according to Yahoo today.
There we go. The White House tout private funding, which I hope we get a list of everybody who donated and how much and what their companies are.
I know what list I'd rather get, though.
Yes, we all want that one too. Can we have both, though?
What if they're the same list?
They probably are very similar. Capacity for statecraft and modernization. The demolition of the East Wing completed in days. I don't even know if it took days. It was like maybe 2.
Yeah, it took like 2 days. And then people were encouraged to not take pictures so people didn't know about it.
Yeah, that's not shady at all. Makes it the most polarizing change in generations. Because literally, I don't know how many people are still alive that were there for, well, definitely not Truman's renovation. There can't be that many. I'm not saying there isn't at all, but it's a small population of early boomers and World War II generation people.
Yeah, there's not that many of them left.
No, like my parents are boomers and they are 74 and 71, and they were born in the early 50s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
Every generation gets the White House it argues for.
You can draw 3 overlapping buckets. Modernization enhances functionality without obviously altering the icon. Those would be the West Wing expansions of 1909 and the 1940s, I think that's actually what that's supposed to say. The third floor living space in 1927, HVAC, because we do need air conditioning. I mean, come on. And wiring overhauls, IT refreshes. They get funded, they get done, and unless you're a staffer or a curator, you might not even notice. They're not changing, well, the third floor is, but they're not changing like the foundational footprint of the White House. Security projects, you got the fencing, the situation upgrades, POC work, are justified by threat environment. I mean, that's just the modern world we live in. These often involve multiple agencies and clear public safety rationales, even if they dent aesthetics or access. Controversy tends to attach to visible symbolic changes like tearing down an entire wing, the removal of other beloved features, Teddy Roosevelt versus the greenhouses, additions that alter the facades, the Truman balcony, or significant new construction, the ballroom, that reframes the historic landscape or short circuits customary review. The more the change reads as personal taste or power, the louder the reaction. And I don't know if we have mentioned this. Of course, FDR had his swimming pool.
Yeah, you didn't mention that yet.
Yes, I don't know why not, but he did have his pool. It was a way for him to get exercise. It is where I believe the media is housed now. It is no longer there. It's been paved over. I mean, it's there.
It's at the press room now.
Yeah. I know Obama turned the tennis courts into a basketball court. I think that involved literally painting different lines and putting up a removable basketball hoop. Not huge structural changes. I mean, the pool is a structural change, but like this was done before any of the modern like checks and balances when it comes to construction.
Well, the pool wasn't actually in the residence anyway.
No, it wasn't. And it was there until Nixon. Nixon's the one who paved over and made it the press secretary.
Or the big press room.
Big press room, yeah. So, like, some of those smaller things have definitely been controversial, is my point. They're not quite as big as some of the other ones we talked about. But go ahead.
And money sources matter. Private donors buying a SETI for the Red Room? Fine. Private donors funding a 90,000 square foot structure that demolishes an entire wing? That's a constitutional violation. Even if his lawyers say it's allowed.
Or a possible constitutional question, at least. At least we should be questioning it. There's nothing wrong with questioning your government, that we should be doing that no matter who's
the
in office.
The Constitution is just a paper.
3 big through lines to end on. Continuity through change. The White House has continually been remade. Porticos added gravitas. Teddy Roosevelt made it workable. Truman made it safer. Kennedy made it a museum. Security projects kept it viable. Now a ballroom bids to make it grander or bigger, depending on your view. The process is part of preservation. Since the 1960s, committees, commissions, and laws have kept the show from becoming a personal vanity project. The current ballroom saga tests these guardrails. What's required, what's customary, what's enforceable. Public meaning. The house is a private home, an office, a museum, a military node, and a park, and a business, essentially, like the business of the American people. Government. It's not just private. Every change balanced these identities. When something as visible as the East Wing goes down, Americans rightly ask who decided, who paid, and what did we lose? The answer ripple through how we think about power and heritage. You can't stop change. You're not progress, can't stop progress. But it is our responsibility as Americans to question our government officials and to demand answers. They work for us.
Yeah.
So that is well within our rights.
Also, let's be honest, in 50 years, after the next nuclear war, tourists may line up under a chandelier and say, "Can you believe this was once controversial?" Then the next president will want to turn it into a pickleball arena. And we'll do this all again.
Please, no pickleball in the staterooms. No, thank you.
No pickleball anywhere.
Right?
Didn't even exist until like a year ago.
No, when I worked at the YMCA, they had pickleballs,
Okay,
and that was like over a decade ago.
Like 5 years ago. Let's tear down a McDonald's, the most popular one in the city of Erie, to make a pickleball court, just to keep the homeless people out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so every president has come in and put some changes to the White House. That is normal. It's just to what degree are they allowed to do it, and what degree should the public become involved in it, and what degree should Congress have a say in it? That's all important. That's our tour of the White House you can't see on the map. The structural, political, and symbolic renovation that made and remade it. I don't actually have any of that, but that's okay.
If you like this, rate and review Time Tellers and tell us what landmark we should renovate with history next.
I'm Renee.
And I'm Dan.
Thanks for listening. Bye.